Welcome to another episode of the Empowered Half Hour. And I am very fortunate to share the space today with another Rebecca. From the other side of the world, for me, I'd like to introduce you guys to Rebecca Bonnington. I was on her podcast quite a few months ago, and we just bonded. We had very similar philosophies. We're talking about harnessing your inner CEO and taking charge of your life, and it was just a fabulous interview. So I wanted to have her on this podcast because she's just so inspirational and empowering. So Rebecca is the CEO and founder of Tricres. And Rebecca, I'd love to first welcome you to the show and then to share a little bit about yourself to the listeners.
Sure, thank you. I'm so happy to be here, Becca. Thank you. So a little bit about myself. So I'm a mum of three. Two have left home, one's still at home. And I am passionate about growing small to medium-sized enterprises. I love gardening. I love yoga. I love swimming. I love being outdoors. I love music, which is how we bonded over your post in the background. I read all kinds of things. I listen to millions of podcasts. I'm just a really curious person and I love learning.
Yeah, I love that you said curious, because I think that those that are curious kind of get to expand their world a little bit. So listeners, curiosity, it's a good trait to pick up. So I'd love to ask you the first question. Rebecca, how did you get to a place where you felt confident enough, strong enough, ready enough to become a founder and CEO of your own business that's helping others?
Okay, I'll let you never.
That's exactly it. Never really ready.
Way back in 99, I had a 2-year-old, very large mortgage, and I was the main wage earner in our household. And the boss I had at the time gave me a really appalling pay rise. I'd hit a massive target. I was in recruitment and I was the highest fee earner in the whole of the north of the UK. And he gave me a really appalling pay rise. And I was so angry, I resigned. And
I think I identify with that spirit, but that's okay.
Yeah. And then it was like, well, now what am I going to do? And somebody said, well, why don't you start your own business? And my initial reaction was, well, I can't do that. And then I slept on it and I woke up the next morning and went, well, why can't I do that? There's no reason why I can't. So I did. And at the time, recruitment had very low barriers to entry and it was really easy to get started. Started with the yellow pages, 2 computers and some phones, and started at A and worked my way through the telephone book.
Oh my gosh, I did not know that about you, and that is such an incredible story. So different, but I did have my own moment of time also where I'm in sales for a living. And when I first got into technology sales, I walked into the office and I worked for a bunch of like Boston guys who kind of like to play games and just mess around a little bit, but they took my computer and left a phone book and said the same thing. They're like, once you get your first appointment, we'll give you the computer and the database and all that stuff. But, as cruel as that could seem, I actually was like, you know what? I can do this. So I identify with your Yellow Pages story. And it's really powerful. It is a really powerful story, though, to think about it, because one person in your shoes could see that as a daunting task and you saw it as an opportunity, and it really turned into something great.
Yeah, absolutely. I decided I had a choice. I could either go and work for somebody else and have a similarly annoying boss, or I could just not have a boss. And the idea of not having a boss appealed to me much more than having a salary.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So we're at the point in your story where you've gone out on your own, you've figured out a way to systemize and start your own business. But share with us, what were some of the challenges or obstacles that you had to overcome? If one or two really stand out to you, I'd love to hear about that part of the process too.
Sure. So I've started and run about 5 businesses in my career. So there's different learning points for all of the businesses. The very first one, the biggest learning point for me was that I had no idea what direction I was taking the business. I had no big vision. I had no plan whatsoever. And that was the biggest failing of that business. So when things got really tough in the crash of 2008, there was no guiding path. And so I closed the business. That also coincided me with being 9 months pregnant as well. So
Mm,
with my third child, and I was just exhausted. So I was like, right, okay, time to walk away, regroup, and start again. So the next business I had was really small and low key, and it was just me. I just kind of thought, right, this was my first foray into coaching, exec coaching, and leadership. And I just kept it really small on purpose whilst I raised
sure.
the kids. And I think for women, it's really important that if you're out on your own or you're growing a career, you have the career or business that suits you at the stage in life you're at. And for me, with three kids, just full time, full on building something was not for me. I can't do that.
Yeah,
Some people do, but I couldn't. So yeah, and then this business, which I started 4 years ago, all the mistakes I'd ever made, there were other businesses that I won't bore you with, but they started with a plan, a huge vision, and I started with the brand, and I started with the culture, which is what we train other business coaches and consultants to do. And we built it from the inside out. So I didn't really start focusing on our target market until, I don't know, 6 months into the business. I was still earning money, still had to earn money by doing kind of the leadership stuff that I had been doing and testing
sure.
out our new materials. But yeah, I built it from the inside out. That was the biggest learning.
Wow. There's so much there that I want to just ask additional questions to. But starting off with a point you highlighted out to the listeners is to match your job with the season of life that you're in. I'd love for you to talk about that a little bit more because I find with a lot of my clients and a lot of the listeners, as well as my old self, we are trying so hard to fit the image
Mm.
of I don't know whether it's perfection or the image that's given to us is you go to work, you have the house, you do this, you do that. And then the mom is working full time, raising kids, trying to do dinner, trying to meal plan, still trying to exercise for, and it's like, it gets overwhelming really fast. And I like that you gave her permission to explore that. And so I'd like to, again, give that to you just to talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I learned the lesson the hard way, Becca, because over the 30-year career, I have been through periods of burnout. So you learn the hard way, and eventually it's sort of like, right, okay, this is my marathon, nobody else's. I just have to do what
Hmm.
I can do, no more, no less. And whilst I've always been ambitious, that ambition has never gone. This is really interesting. I thought it would go one day, but it hasn't. And what took me by surprise was my older two left home back in 2018, it was. And they left home within about 2 months of each other. So that was a bit weird for a start. And
Wow.
after I got over the empty nest bit, I suddenly went, "Ooh, I have all this headspace. I have all this energy that is no longer taking up with meal planning, shopping, etc., etc." And I went, "Do you know what? I'm going to start and grow the business I've always wanted to grow."
That's beautiful.
And that's when I started Tricres and thought, I was 48 at the time, and I thought, right, I have got a good 10 years of energy in me to really, really go for this. And that's what I decided to do. And I love it. Absolutely love it.
I love it so much. So I want to go back into another point where it kind of pick up where you just ended. But you had mentioned that one of the lessons that you learned was building the business from the inside out and that you did it slow. When we were preparing for the interview, I had mentioned to you that a lot of the listeners of the Empowered Half Hour are still full timers, not really ready to quit, but also at the same time looking for something more. And I think this concept of starting it inside out might be like a permission slip for them to start building now. So I'm interested in what you have to say if
Mm.
there's listeners out there that are contemplating starting their dream business.
Yeah, you start with the end in mind, which is a Jim Collins good to great quote, but he's right. And I'm a trainer of NLP, and we always say, know your outcome. So if you want to start something, start with working out where you want to end up. So start with the big vision or small vision or whatever vision you want. It's very personal to you. And that
Yes.
includes where you want to end up in terms of your lifestyle, where you want to be living, the house you want, the car you want, the holidays you
Okay.
want, the disposable income, the savings, whatever, and then work backwards and then find the thing that's going to suit you. So you create your own vehicle basically to get you where you
That's
want to
amazing.
be. Yeah. And so many business owners forget to do that and they create a vehicle that doesn't really suit them and they don't really like. And it's such a
Yes.
mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, moving gears a little bit, I'd love to ask so now you're in this place, you're 4 years into your business, you're rocking it. What is a current lesson or aha that's up for you? It could be personal or professional that you could share with the listeners.
All right. Okay. So I'll do one of each. So personal is that,
Okay, awesome.
yeah, the personal is you've got to account for the menopause. Okay. So I, whilst I had the headspace and the kids left, very quickly I went into perimenopause and all kinds of weird stuff started happening. Okay. So, ladies, just look after yourself during that period of time and seek out help if you're having menopausal symptoms. Okay, those are all under control for me, so that's fine. Professionally, the biggest lessons I've learned over the past few years are around positioning and marketing your product and getting that product market fit. It took us 3 years to get it. And when we finally got it, that's when things started taking off for us. A lot of trial and error, a lot of going down dead ends. Just if you've got that big vision and you know you're onto something, just keep going. That's the biggest professional learning.
I love that. And I'm going to take that and receive that, not only for the listeners, but for myself too, because that's kind of where I'm at too. I've been off and on coaching and speaking since 2008. But as far as once I wrote Harness Your Inner CEO, I really launched into a full business. And I think that I have that grand vision, but it's taken me quite a long time to get the words and vision to match the market.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, I just appreciate what you just said so much because it's an evolution
Mhm.
and I can feel it starting to get that click, 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 and things aren't as hard as they used to be. So, there's a level of perseverance to it.
Yeah, there absolutely is. And be led by your clients. That was our other lesson is your clients tell you what they want. Uh,
Yes.
we've adapted to what they've said they want and it's working.
Oh, that's so great. That's
Mm.
so great. All right. So, next question. Why are you so passionate about this work?
Oh, okay. So small to medium sized businesses are the backbone of every single economy across the world. Owners of businesses, large and small, you and I know this, they sacrifice so much, not just
Yes.
time, energy, and money, but they give jobs to people who the big corporates wouldn't take a second look at. They give back to their community. I actually think it's the most sustainable model of business there is, environmentally, socially, for your community, economically. And I
Wow.
really wanted to find a way to support as many SME business owners as I possibly could. And the only way to do that was to train other people in our methodology so they can work with their communities to put in these great cultures and grow sustainable businesses.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And we're talking about passion. I know that you and I share a lot of passion just for personal development and growth. And so I'd also like to ask more on the personal side too. Why are you so passionate about persevering and your ambition and just to keep going? I think this is like it beams through you almost. So I want to ask.
I think it comes from my upbringing. And I think I come from a long line of self employed people. So both sets of my grandparents were self employed. My mum and dad divorced when I was one, but they were both independently self employed. I work with my brother. He's pretty much always been self employed. I've worked with my brother
Oh,
twice now. And I'm just really independently minded and question everything, which doesn't make me a very good employee apart from anything else. I'm not very good
That's hilarious.
at following instructions just for the sake of it. And I think it's that curiosity, Becca. I really do. It's
Yeah.
like, well, what else can I do? How else can we do this? Could we do it better? Could we do it differently? Yeah, I think it's that deep sense of curiosity and passion for learning.
I love that so much. And it's making me think of also the listener a little bit because we have a lot of dreamers on this podcast. Again, people who just want more for life, more meaning, more fulfillment, more money, more.
Yeah,
They just want more. But we do get into burnout or we get stuck in these moments of life where we're just like, you don't understand. I can't do this now, or I can't handle one more thing. And I know that comes just from that survival state of mind. There's a certain level of truth to it, but it's also, I just wrote it in the book I'm writing right now. I said it's also as fake as a fake designer bag, right? Because it's just not true. We can set stepping stones, we can work on mindset shifts. And with all the businesses you've started, with you breaking away from corporate, with you standing up small and medium sized businesses, I know you've had to do a lot of mindset work.
yeah,
And so I would love for you to meet maybe that listener where they're still working, but their dreams are like right there and they just haven't took the step. What would you say to them to empower them to keep going?
yeah. So we have a model called the entrepreneurial journey that describes this beautifully. So you have to take a leap of faith. And when you take that leap of faith, you go through what we call the wall of nervited. So this nervous excitement, and actually sometimes it's just sheer terror. What I want people to understand is that there is a safety net, okay? So you take that leap of faith and you're taking that leap of faith in yourself. Now,
Mm,
if you're not comfortable or confident in yourself, then you got to learn to do that. You've got to learn to get comfortable and confident in yourself and trust yourself that you've got this, even if you have to kid yourself at first that you've got this. All right. One of my key
love that.
phrases to myself is, right, Rebecca, you've got this. And sometimes, you know what it's like running a business, it's really dark. You're like, oh my God, the money's going to run out. How am I going to pay people? Blah, blah, blah. All of the, particularly through COVID, horrific. But it's like, right, okay, you've got this, Rebecca. What can I do? And it's those internal conversations that you have with yourself where you really have to sit yourself down and have a very strong word with yourself. And am I allowed to swear, Becca?
Of course.
Right. Just get your shit together, okay?
Yes.
Just have a really serious word with yourself and go, do you know, I've been through worse? Because most women have. Most women
Yes.
have been through a lot worse. I know I have. I don't know about you, but I certainly have. And it's like, if I can survive that, this is easy. All right.
Oh, I love that framework or that favorite reference. I just got the goosebumps all over my body because if you think about that, like everything that we've been through, and then we doubt ourselves on something that we're totally capable of.
Totally. Totally. You've all got it, ladies. You have
That's right.
absolutely got it.
That is great. So now that you're in the business, you're 4 years into the business, what is next for you?
Ooh. Yeah, what is next? I think it was telling you before we came on air, we have a really good conversion rate to our Escape 9 to 5 event. So, what we're working on now is increasing the number of people who come to that event. We know our online learning is fantastic. We produce really good kick ass culture coaches and consultants. And we just need to get more people into that event that we hold. So, we're working on an affiliate program at the moment. I was just writing that before we came on air.
That's
And
awesome.
we're really looking to spread the word to get as many people into that event as possible. And beyond that, who knows? I'd really like to see our content in a big organization training up internal coaches. Somebody this week said, well, why don't you get in touch with the College of Physiotherapists? Because they learn how to be physiotherapists, but they don't learn how to run a business. And so our materials are really good for professionals who are brilliant at their skill, but don't know how to run a business. So that kind of thing is going to be definitely on
Wow.
the radar. Yeah.
I mean, you just said two things that like really floored me is that one, yes, I run into a lot of solopreneurs and specialists, I would say, that are entrepreneurs, but they never got the business training. So their stress level is extremely high because they don't have that skill. So the fact that you're looking to get into that is really, I think, really powerful. And
Mm.
then two, the other thing that you said, because I'm still such a corporate gal, like I still work at Cisco. And so I'm always thinking work culture and stuff. But internal coaches, this is something I have been fired up about for a long time is that a lot of managers, they get better once they're director level and higher because they flex their leadership muscles a little bit. But a lot of midline managers were star performers who just got promoted.
Yeah.
And I feel like we should be teaching them how to be coaches, business coaches, and life coaching skills so that they're really prepared for it. And so I'd love for you just to talk about that for a second because I heard that drip and I was like, I'm coming back to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've developed a 21st century leadership program to solve that problem, 8 module program that I take leaders through, sometimes board level, most of the time senior management and mid-level management level. And that
Mhm.
teaches them exactly that is, look, you've got this skill, great. And you're absolutely right. People get promoted because they're really good at a skill, not because they're good at leading people. It's completely the wrong
Mhm.
way around. And I teach them how to lead, manage, have constructive conversations, be aware of themselves, their impact on others, all that really, really good stuff that they don't get taught. And yeah, the more people that can learn that, the better. And our content could be used in big corporates, absolutely, to teach people how to do that.
That's
And some of our
awesome.
coaches are already doing that, not just me.
Yeah, that's really great because I believe that shifting corporate culture is completely possible, but it's an inside out job.
It is, it is. And it also has to come from the top, Becca. It has to be
Yes, it
led.
needs to be supported.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it really does. And it's not a nice to have, it's an essential. With the Gen Z, as you would say, coming into the workplace, if organizations aren't doing this, they're going to lose out on talent.
Yeah, they will.
Mm.
It's interesting. I was recording a podcast yesterday, and the woman I was interviewing is a good friend that I met in a women's networking group, but also she's a C level within a mid sized business. And she had said, too, like one of her biggest lessons as a leader was that her energy matters. How she shows up is how her employees respond to her. And it took her a while to get that because she's like, I remember one time in my life, I was just shooting out emails, one liners because I was busy. And then I realized that cascaded down to my team. And that's how things were being managed, even though we're all culture centric and very into personal development. I would say it was just interesting that sometimes when you're not thinking about it, especially as a leader, your actions are dictating the behavior of everybody else.
Hugely, hugely. I teach my leaders to look in the mirror first, then seek to understand, then deploy whatever it is they need to deploy. But yeah, look in the mirror first, always.
That's a great one liner. I just got the goosebumps on that one. So we're starting to wind down. I would love just to open the mic for you to share a story, a one liner, a quote, but something that might empower the audience.
Wow. Okay. So I think I know most of your audience are women. There will be some men, definitely. And I've come across this with men too. There's something out there that people refer to as imposter syndrome. Now, I don't think it exists. Okay. And I've come across men and women who think that somehow they have it. All right. If there's one thing I'd urge you to do is change the image of yourself. If you're feeling that way, the image you have of yourself is not the current one. Because if you're in a
Mm,
leadership role, you're in a managerial role, you're thinking about starting a business or you're climbing the ladder, wherever you're up to, you've already got a whole load of skills and experience that other people simply don't have. Your life, your education, whatever background you come from, it doesn't matter where you start. Okay, that's the other
Yes.
thing. It doesn't matter where you start. And just work on your self image. Just again, even if you have to kid yourself at first that you're a strong, bold, independent, successful woman, man, whatever, kid on to yourself, and then you'll begin to feel it. That for me was a game changer. I used to feel I couldn't do this because I couldn't do that because, and then I started working on the image I have of myself. And I was like, of course I can do this. Yeah, I've got this, definitely. And that's a game changer. So work on that.
Oh my gosh, that is so powerful. I got the goosebumps like 10 times on this episode, so I'm really happy because I know that means there's some good soul coming through. All right, so now I'd like you to share how the listeners can stay in touch with you, and I'll give that to you.
Okay, lovely. So I'm on LinkedIn, Rebecca Bonnington, Tricres. You can follow me or connect with me, that's fine. You can go to our website, tricres.com, Tricres. You can find me on all major social media platforms under Tricres Limited Ltd. And we have a podcast called The Entrepreneurial Journey, which
Yes,
obviously
and it's awesome. Well, Rebecca, it was such a pleasure to have you on the podcast. I'm glad we got to reconnect and talk some more.
amazing. Thanks for having me, Rebecca. I really appreciate it.